I bet you didn't know why this week is special. Well, I'll tell you. This is National Volunteer Week, and there are so many people who go outside of themselves. That's why they're volunteers. They help with various things, from school systems to helping the homeless to whatever it is that they can lend a hand. Well, the United Way is thanking volunteers and also talking about this particular week. And to join us to give us some details, and maybe you'll find that this is something you need to be, a volunteer in your community. Jerry Hagler is the Vice President of Education, Engagement, and Communications with the United Way of the Central Carolina. So thanks so much, Jerry, for talking with us today.
B, thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about this, because when we say volunteers are important, that's not an understatement, is it?
It is not. Certainly when you look at nonprofits and you look at school systems and agencies all over this region, many of them could not operate without volunteers. And I will certainly say, from a United Way perspective, of the 80-plus agencies that we fund, they all depend greatly on volunteers. And we as a United Way organization depend greatly on volunteers for the work that we do.
Because the volunteers are providing a service. This is really hands and feet on the ground, and they're not asking for dollars. So that's basically leveraging what those organizations have.
It is most definitely. You know, when you put a dollar amount to it, and you look at how that actually helps to reduce overhead cost for nonprofit groups. I know from a United Way perspective, we use about 150 volunteers that help us in making decisions about how dollars given to United Way are allocated to agencies. So we've got investment councils of community volunteers who are going out, looking at the applications, going to the agencies and visiting, hearing panel presentations, and making recommendations about where United Way dollars go. We also have volunteers that are financial experts, certified public accountants, others who are looking at the agencies to make sure that they are fiscally accountable and looking at their 990s and other documents to make sure that these are the agencies where the dollars should be going.
You know, Jerry, North Carolina and Charlotte in particular has been lauded nationally because this is a giving community. And across the board, do we have a higher percentage, you would say, of volunteers that give in this community? Do we measure well when it comes to volunteer hours?
You know, I don't have a comparison, but I can tell you through the United Way Volunteer Center, last year we had about 3,000 volunteers who gave more than 12,000 hours of service and did about 350 plus volunteer projects within this community. So that's a huge number, and that's just primarily for United Way funded agencies. So when you look at other agencies and organizations, you know, Charlotte has always been known as a can-do community and a giving community. And I am never surprised by how much, you know, because I see this community from a faith standpoint, from individual businesses giving back both dollars and time, and families who want to roll up their sleeves and get involved and give back to this community. So this really is a giving area for sure.
And I want people to understand there's no such thing as a typical volunteer, because with United Way, you've got volunteers young, old, and every ethnic persuasion, don't you?
We sure do. And, you know, we have people calling us saying, you know, my son or daughter is interested in volunteering. So from a standpoint of volunteer opportunities, you can go to the United Way website and see our agencies and what they use volunteers for. So there are, you know, students probably in upper middle school, high school, who can come with an adult and volunteer. We've got a really, really strong United Way Young Leaders program. So those are young professionals like 20 to 40 who have said, I want to give back. And what's been really neat to watch those young leaders is that they bring their small children with them sometimes. So they may be involved in a gardening project or a landscaping project or, you know, whatever the need might be, but they are modeling for their children how important it is to give back. And then we've got senior adults who are skilled experts in lots of different areas. They've got a little bit of extra time on their hands, and they would say, I want to spend my retirement years giving back and volunteering too. So it is across the gamut from an age standpoint.
Well, before we talk about rewarding volunteers, I want to make sure that I let everybody know what the website is, because you can be a part of being a volunteer. And this particular week, the National Volunteer Week from April 21st to the 27th, is a good time for you to find out. So you can go to the United Way's website at www.uwcentralcarolinas.org with an S on Carolinas. So www.uwcentralcarolinas.org. So let's talk about the appreciation that's being shown. This past week, Mecklenburg County lauded and applauded its volunteers with certificates and thanking them for helping the county's agencies. Tell me a little bit about what's going to be going on this week with United Way.
Well, we've got a number of activities. We're encouraging all of the agencies that we fund to make sure that they're recognizing their volunteers during this week, and many of them have recognition events, breakfast, lunch, sending out emails. From a United Way perspective, we're going to be sending an email out to about 50,000 people with a video that highlights one of our exceptional volunteers. We also have launched this year a project called Project 1000, where we're trying to not only recruit 1,000 readers, tutors, and mentors to work with children in 16 of our agencies, but we're also making sure that they get placed with an agency and that they go through training so they have skill set, they kind of have a knowledge of what they're going to be doing to help children, in particular with reading skills. So right now we have about 200 of the 1,000 that we're trying to recruit that have gone through the training and have been placed in agencies. And so we're going to be recognizing a first place, second place, and third place volunteer through Project 1000. And, many times when people volunteer, they're not doing it for the recognition piece. So our recognition is actually going to go to the school or the program that they volunteer for.
Wonderful.
So first place, we're going to go have a party for the program or the classroom, going to give brand new books to every child in that program, and the individual child that the volunteer works with will get a whole set of new books to take home with them.
That is fantastic, and giving back to the community as well. And it also sets an example for the kids in the schools to see volunteers coming in, giving their time. Now, let me ask you this, Jerry. When we're talking about being a volunteer, folk don't have to say, oh, they're going to want me to come every week and they're going to want a lot of hours. They can pretty much determine how they want their developing side of their volunteer spirit to move into an agency, can't they?
Most definitely. And we encourage people, if you're a little hesitant, you're not real sure how this might work or how you would fit in, that maybe you get your feet wet with like 30 minutes a week as a lunch buddy.
Yeah.
And you go into the school maybe through the Communities in Schools program or a Child's Place program that supports children who are homeless, and go in and spend 30 minutes a week during lunch. The children will thrive on that time, and you'll be amazed at how much you get out of it, and certainly the child benefits from it as well. So that's one way of just finding out, is this something I want to do? My feeling is that you're going to get the fever, and you're going to want to spend more time with that child, which is the example that we've heard from most people who are volunteering. So they may become grow in from a lunch buddy to a mentor or a regular tutor where they're spending more time with the child. But certainly we know people's schedules are busy. You might be able to work with a child before school. You might be able to, do that lunch buddy situation. If it's a United Way funded agency, maybe you've got some time, after work hours. And so you want to, through Big Brothers Big Sisters, say, I want to be a mentor with a child within the community, which means I can spend some time on the weekend or at night after school hours. So we've really got something that fits with everybody's schedule and with the amount of time that they can give.
So we want to encourage everybody during this particular National Volunteer Week. The push is on. The United Way here in Charlotte and in Mecklenburg County and covering other counties as well. Project 1000 to get the volunteers, readers, tutors, and mentors. The easiest way to do it is to go to the website. It's www.uwcentralcarolinas.org. Jerry Hagler, we thank you so much, and the United Way for all that it does and giving back to this community. Thank you, my friend.
All right, thank you. And we want to give a shout out to our volunteers for all that they do for this community.
And that's what it's all about. It's National Volunteers Week, and for everyone, we salute you.